Hey everybody, I'm David.
I'm Jess.
I'm the husband.
I'm the wife.
And we're married.
15 to life.
Fifteen to life.
15 to
life. 15 to life.
Why are you saying that like it's a bad thing?
I'm saying it like I think I could write a song. 15 to life. I need to write our own theme song. 15.
Oh, Lord.
What should our song sound like? Should it be jubilant? Should it be fun, dance kind? Or should it be 15 to life?
I think we should have let Nate do it. Make us a jingle.
15 to life. 15 to
There's no
life.
telling what it would sound like. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, Nate's been in a rare form
Oh my
lately. I've
gosh.
loved it. I've been substituting at his school every chance I can now. I have two programs that I use to sub, and they're used by two different school districts. And the district that his school is in, it's so hard for me to get a substitute job there because I think the app updates like a minute after the job gets posted. And so if you have the app like I do and you happen to see it like a split second before I do, you could snatch the job up. But thankfully,
You would think most people would do it via app.
I know, but regardless, however they're finding it and getting notifications about it, it's always like, this job is no longer available. We're sorry. And so
People really want to sub there.
people really want to sub that. Well, it's also that school and like two other schools in the area that have it. And so, but I got to go sub at his school yesterday, and during lunch, I got to go sit down next to him, and he was sitting there with his laptop and his headphones on. And I sat down, I tapped his arm, and he wouldn't look at me, and I tapped his arm again. He wouldn't look at me. So I took his headphone off and went, "Hey, what's up?" And he looked at me and went, Like what are you doing here? And he said, "Daddy, you're substituting today." And I said, "Yes, I am, Nate. Who are you substituting for?" I'm substituting for Miss Wells. Mrs. Wells. Do you know who that is? Yes, I do.
My favorite is when you were telling the kids that something about, I'll tell Nate what y'all, and they're all like, Nate. And then somebody's like, who's Nate? And they're like, you don't know who Nate Holley is?
Yeah.
Nate's like a legend there.
Yeah, and I updated my name tag, so it has a picture of me and Nate, and it says Mr. Holley, Pastor David, or Nate Holley's dad, whatever you want to call me. Those are my three
Nate
names.
is like the celebrity of the school. Everybody
know.
loves him. And what's so funny is he doesn't even care. He's like,
No.
whatever.
Which makes him even more popular.
Yeah.
He's that because every kid that was popular in high school didn't care about your opinion of them. They just were what they were. So
Yeah. He's like, you can sit by me if you want. And you can whatever.
Whatever you want. Whatever you want. Yeah, so it's been fun doing that. I'm actually substituting today after this podcast.
Are you substituting there?
No, not there. I'm substituting at the other school that's in that program.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but no, that's great. But yeah, for those of you watching that have the ESS sub app, I want to send a disclaimer out to you. Whatever you can do to help me get the notifications at the same time as everybody else, I would greatly appreciate it. So
Maybe everybody's just sitting right there and they just click it 1 second before you.
Yeah, come on. I got it. And that's what they're doing. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean,
Anyway, all right. So we asked, you talked. And so, ladies first, Jessica, we're going to go back to the year 2009 after we had just gotten engaged and we were getting married and you were living in our apartment at Kensington Manor in Calera, Alabama.
Yep.
And
David was so nice because we got this apartment in August. We got married in September, and you went and stayed at my mom and dad's house.
Yes.
And let me stay in the apartment till we got married. That was so nice of you. And I got to set everything up.
And you get to bring me home to it.
I know. That was so sweet. 'Cause I didn't have a job or anything. You would have every right to be like, no, I'm moving in. You're going to stay there with your mom and dad. But you didn't.
No, I wanted to.
He's so nice.
My dad raised me to be a gentleman, and he also raised me to go, the woman needs her nest. So let her go make her nest so that you can.
It was a little apartment. It was 2 bedrooms. And man, it seems like a lifetime ago.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah. It was on the 3rd floor.
Yeah.
And we loved it because the 3rd floor had
it. We picked the 3rd floor because it had taller ceilings.
It had the vaulted ceilings.
But looking back, I'm like, what the heck were we thinking?
We were young and could walk up the stairs. We didn't care. Now we would never do that.
But it was all fun and games.
My 40-year-old knees can't take 2 flights of stairs.
It was all fun and games until we had to move in and move out and all that.
And apartments get an elevator. I understand.
They're not going to do it for only 3 floors.
I know they're not going to do it for only 3 floors, but my goodness, it would save so much headache with moving and with everything else.
Yeah.
Oh, well, but anyway, I feel bad, man. I know a lot of them can't afford it either. They're barely supplying to take care of the apartments that they are, but But yeah, it was great. And we moved you into that. We're going to do our wedding in September near our 16th anniversary. I think that would be fun. Then we could be married 16 to life. No, I'm just kidding. We're not going to update it. We started at 15. And so it's going to always be remembered. That's the year we started the podcast. And so however many years we choose to do this. But the first topic that we put out there to them to talk about is you became a nurse. And
well, I had taken my NCLEX, which is what the official test you have to take after you graduate nursing school to actually get your RN on, next to your name. I took that in the summer before we got married. So when I was interviewing before that, it was all contingent on me passing that. And so, which I figured I would, because I'd heard like once you graduate nursing school, the test to get out of there is actually harder than the NCLEX because they want to make sure like nursing schools, their ratio of percentage of people that pass needs to be high. Like that's a reflection on the school if they have a bunch of people failing the NCLEX. So anyway, I took that test and passed. That was exciting. And officially became an RN, which after I told you guys how hard nursing school was. So after all of that,
your exact quote was, "It's hell."
Yeah, welcome to hell. That's that's what they told us basically. And it was really bad. And so getting that next to your name is like, oh my gosh, I did it. Yeah. That was kind of surreal. And anyway, we got married. I still didn't have a job. I had a couple interviews. I actually interviewed with the Children's Hospital in Birmingham in the operating room department before we got married. I interviewed like in the summer. And, I don't even remember what they were asking me, but basically it was like, look, this job is different than what you did in nursing school. You're going to be in the operating room. At this particular hospital, we have nurses both as, I'm not going to try to get too technical, but as a circulating nurse where you like chart, you're not right up there with them doing surgery. You're kind of the patient's representative back in the background. You're charting for them. If anybody needs anything, you're there away from them. And that's where most RNs are in surgery.
Right.
But at this children's hospital, they're going to train you to do that and to be in a scrub position. So if you get this job, you're going to have to learn how to scrub in, which is a two-year class for everybody that just goes to school to just be a scrub tech.
Wow.
So you're going to have to learn this on the fly. But at this point, like I just wanted a job. So I was like, okay, well, they ended up hiring someone else who had operating room, experience. And so I was like, well, that's, a door closed. And then we had gotten married and I don't even think they interviewed me again after that. Maybe they did. But in the end of the year in 2009, I got a call from that same department. It's actually from the HR saying, we want to offer you this position to be a operating room nurse at Children's Hospital. And I remember getting that call and being like over the moon because we have been like, we didn't know what we were going to do. We had zero money. You were teaching Bible and you weren't making very much. And, we had this apartment. And so, my first day was going to be right at the beginning of January. It was like January 2nd or 3rd or something. And so we went into Christmas knowing I had that job, which was so exciting. And I don't know if you want me to keep going.
I mean, I just remember when you brought it home and announced it, I was excited for you. I was excited that, you want to be able to put your degree into action. And I only got to see the last year of your nursing school, and I just was like, she deserves to be able to use this and put it into action. And this is and at that point in your life, it was a passion for you. You did want to do it, and it was.
I mean, it's hard because I don't know.
At the time, it definitely was.
Well, at the time, I was like, look, I've got this degree, and we need money. But it wasn't like this thing, or I can't wait to be a nurse to give back.
You weren't looking forward to it?
I was looking forward to it just because of out of necessity, honestly. I never had this passion for nursing. That's why I almost quit nursing school. Like to me, I was like, it'll be a good job. It'll be something I can, probably be good at. And there's, lots of nursing jobs out there. And my goal, honestly, was maybe to find an area of nursing that I liked better than others. And I really didn't want to start on like a med surge floor. And med surge is just where it's pretty much just all kinds of stuff. If you're in the hospital for, something, I don't know, like your gallbladder and appendix. And it's just a bunch of everything. That's a really hard.
Like the general?
Yeah. It's like, it's just a wide range. They have like the mother baby unit, and they have like the neurology unit and the cardiac unit. It's none of that. It's just the general.
They
call it med surg. Yeah. And I didn't really want to start out on that. You could start out with 7, 8, 9 patients that you're taking care of. It's really hard. But a lot of times as a nurse, you have to start there because they want you to get that experience.
Right.
But I didn't really want to start there because in clinicals, discovered really quick I hated it.
Right.
So to me, like getting this job in the OR, I thought, well, maybe this is the answer. Maybe I will love the operating room.
Right.
And it's a children's hospital, and I love kids. And I remember telling them in the interview, oh, I love kids. I've babysat, I've done all this stuff. And I remember them being like, I need you to understand.
This is not going to be ideal situations.
The kids are going to be asleep. Yeah. It's not like you're going to get
very hurt.
It's not like you're going to get to interact with the kids mostly. You're going to be interacting with the surgeons, with the scrub techs, with the other nurses, with the parents. And you're going to get the kids like from the like pre-op room, and you're going to take them back into surgery. So there is some skills needed to make sure they're calm and, but then very quickly they're put to sleep. And so I remember them being like, it's good that you have kid experience, but looking back, they probably were like, this naive girl.
What's the path for this? And this will probably help us because Jessica, when I were talking about this before, she was like, I don't know if we can get a whole episode out of this. These are the kind of questions I was thinking about asking you to help with this. What's the process of going from having a nursing degree to being like working in a doctor's office where you can interact with kids in a waiting room, or you can weigh them and take their blood pressure and that kind of thing?
A lot of nurses in doctor's office and stuff are actually LPNs. Practical nurses, they're not RNs. A lot of times they won't hire a bunch of RNs because you have to pay them more. And a lot of times, like I said,
did you ever consider becoming an LPN?
No, I wanted to go into the full, that's just what I chose to do. Because I was like, if I'm going to do it, I want the RN, and I just thought I would be able to have more jobs and stuff. A lot of times, like say a doctor's office, they may hire mostly LPNs with like an overseeing RN that's kind of watching out for everybody. But in order to get those kind of jobs, a lot of times you need the experience of working in a hospital. That's just where everybody starts.
Makes sense.
And I hated working in a hospital. And a lot of people would say to me, well, what about a school nurse? I would think I would love that. But again, you have to have the experience of working in a hospital. You don't just start there. So that's why I was applying to all of these hospitals, trying to get experience, knowing that it's probably not going to be where I want to stay forever.
Right.
But a lot of times you need several years of experience.
Do you remember your first day?
Yeah. I remember because if
you need some water, there's a bottle right there.
I got stuck in really bad traffic in Birmingham, and I was late.
Oh, you cannot be late your first day.
I left plenty of time, like in order. You know how on time I am.
Well, apparently not enough.
There was an accident, and I'm surprised you don't remember this because I was freaking out. I was calling you and my mom and everybody else.
I remember you calling. I'm reenacting it. I'm remembering it.
The first 2 days was just an orientation to the hospital. So everybody that was just, whether they were custodians, lunchroom staff, whoever was coming in everybody was doing this orientation together.
Right.
Talking about the hospital and different, the health plans and all that. So it wasn't like I got there probably 30 minutes late. And I remember walking in, and I had tried to text the person who hired me, and like I wasn't getting anything. And I remember walking in, and she was waiting for me. And I was like, I'm so sorry I got in an accident. And it was not a big deal. They were okay with it.
Like how late were you?
Like I said, like 30 minutes or something.
Oh.
Yeah, it was bad. Like everybody had already taken their ID pictures.
Jess.
Honey, it wasn't my fault. I got stuck in a horrible wreck.
My goodness, that even if with all the right circumstances, now everybody else is like, well, that's the girl who was late, and
well, I couldn't help it.
I know. I got
stuck in this really bad wreck.
I'm just thinking every medical show we've talked about with like Grey's Anatomy or whatever, we're like the person who's late. Oh, late. She's the late girl, and that like stays with you. like 5 Alarm becomes your nickname and whatever else.
I was humiliated. Believe me, nobody hated it worse than me. And so they'd already taken their ID pictures, but they got me, it really wasn't that big of a deal. Other than the ID pictures, that's all they really had done.
Right.
But I hated, like you said, like the way it looks is, and the thing was too, when they called me and offered me the job, I was very concerned because when I interviewed, they had said, you're going to have to take call shifts. So if there's an emergency in the middle of the night, you're going to have to take turns to being on call. And you need to be able to get to the hospital in like 30 minutes.
Oh boy.
And I remember telling them, like, we just had, moved into this apartment in Calera.
It's 30 minutes from you to the hospital.
It's 30 minutes without traffic and without me having to like get in the car and all that. And I remember telling them, like, before I say yes to this, I just want to make sure you guys are aware of where I live. And HR was like, we have people that live in Calera. I think it should be fine. So I'd already had that going into it. And then for me to be late, it wasn't good. But I mean, everybody was, I don't really think.
Was there any like, okay, was it at all like any of these TV shows where there's a close group of you that are working together all the time?
Are you talking about in the orientation? Or?
Like just that, and just this is the new crop of nurses that are doing their.
Like it. In terms of where I was going in the operating room, it was only me and one other operating room nurse that was going there. Now, like I said, the room was full of people who were just doctors and nurses on other floors and people going into work at the cafeteria. So it was all of these people just being orientated to the hospital.
Right.
And then I remember like our supervisors in the operating room came and talked to us. And
how many other new people were there besides you?
Probably 50.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
40, 50. And they had like breakfast for us. And it actually was nice. The first couple of days was nice. They were, going through your health plan. It was very like they got you set up with your badge, stuff like that. It was very chill. And then I remember the first day, the operating room supervisors came to us and they're like, okay, tomorrow afternoon, when you get done with orientation, we want you to come to the floor and we want to show you around. And, and I remember going there and being like, oh Lord, like what have I gotten myself into? Because the way the operating room worked is there was different groups of people. So you had like the ortho team that did like, bone surgeries and stuff. You had the neuro team, you had the plastics team, you had like the ENT, and there was all these different groups and they were almost like kind of cliquish because you trained to those surgeries. And so you would have like, so the neuro team did craniotomies and all this like neuro stuff, and they worked with the neuro doctors.
Right.
So coming in as a new person, they don't know where you're going to go yet. So you've got to go around in orientation to orient to all of the different teams.
Right.
So you're learning all of the different surgeries and tools that you need and all of this stuff. And I will tell you, in nursing school, they do not teach you how to scrub in. They don't tell you what all of these different tools are. That's not something you learn.
So how much of it is on the job teaching and how much of it is you're just watching and doing it yourself?
They, the first few, I would say 1 to 2 times, they would take us back. Like this only happened a couple times. They would take us back to a room and they would go through the different instruments and try to get us to memorize them. Like that did not happen very much. Most of the time you're scrubbing in next to a scrub tech and you're watching what they do. And the doctors will say, I don't even remember the tools names, but they'll just say it and they say it kind of softly.
Scalpel.
Yeah. Scalpel was the easy one. I mean, there's so many different
crankshaft.
There's so many retraction this, retraction that, these different types of sutures and all this stuff. There's no thermometer in surgery.
Flush out.
Okay, stop. I mean,
inner tubing.
If you've ever seen like Grey's Anatomy or something, when they have that big table of all the instruments, like that's seriously what it is. And
you got to know what every single one of them is.
Not only do you have to know, you have to set it all up the way that doctor wants it and make sure that you have their gown and their gloves and what they need and all this stuff. And going into that was intense.
So it's not by the procedure. It's by
it's by the procedure, but it's also by the doctor.
Okay.
What they like. Now, most of the time.
How do you know that if you've never worked there?
Again, the orientation process was going to be like a 6-month process. So you're going to orient to all these different teams. and learn all these different doctors and work with all these different types of nurses. And then once you get done with orientation, you will be assigned a team and you will work more with just them.
We have this at our church. It's called Lead Team.
Yeah,
where they rotate through all the pastors and all the areas of ministry. And then at the end of it, they give an assessment and go, what do you feel you're most rewarded in doing? And then they try to find a place for you.
It's not exactly like that, because you don't just get to pick what you like the best.
I'm saying that's the difference. In ministry, you get they're like, this is what we see. Does this bear witness of what you feel?
Now, and I will say that they do try to take your preferences and what you like, but there may not be an opening in that position, you know?
Right.
And so it was like walking into a foreign country. Like it was so, and then like learning how all the charting when you are doing not the scrub part but the circulating part, how to go and get the patients, talk to the parents. You know, the parents have questions and you're like, you know, and then you have certain times where you have to call the parents and let them know how the surgery is going, and then when the patient's waking up, how to get them to the recovery room, and it's just very technical. And
did you ever do the whole thing like in the movies where you walk out and talk to the parents? This is what's going on right now.
We had a phone, and there would be sometimes like if it was a really long surgery, they would say like every couple hours, call the parents and just say everything's going good.
But the whole like walk out of the operating room with your mask on, take the mask down, Mr. and Mrs. whatever, this is what's going on in the operating room right now.
That's more of like the doctor, I think, would do that.
Okay.
The nurses were just mostly there to just reassure.
Gotcha.
You know, and maybe if there was a problem or something, hey, this is taking a little bit longer, the doctor would tell us, like, tell them it's going to be a little bit longer. But basically, our job was just to kind of reassure them, because it's scary. I mean, we've been on the other side of it when your kid's in surgery.
Yeah. So take away from this, everybody, the movies and TV shows are wrong.
Well, I mean, it can be like that in an emergency, but I don't necessarily think it would be the nurse doing that.
Right.
Usually the doctors are the ones that, like, you know, give the bad news and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it was a really hard time for me.
So which rotation for you was the hardest?
It was all hard. It was all really hard. I hated it. Every single day I woke up and I cried and I didn't want to go. And I can't tell you how much I hated it.
Then why did you major in it?
Well, what I majored in and operating room, two totally different things. Again, like I said in my nursing school thing, I did not pick nursing because I just loved it. I wanted to quit halfway through nursing school because I hated it. So it wasn't like, oh, I picked it, I can't wait to do it. It was more like, I'm in the middle of this, so I've got to finish it. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, I did my, before you leave nursing school, you do your practicum where you work with a nurse on a floor. And I did that at a children's hospital on like a med surge, but it's all children, like a pediatric unit. I liked that. Okay. I think I could have done that okay without like crying every day. The operating room, totally different. Mm-hmm. Now you're dealing with surgeons who are not the nicest.
Absolutely.
And they don't understand how you're different than the scrub techs. The scrub techs take 2 years to learn all these instruments. We're learning it in like a couple days.
Right.
And they're over here going like, come on. And they're getting mad at you. And the other nurses are really catty. Like it was just a very like toxic environment.
That makes sense.
And I hated it. And I was going around to the different things. I had a couple of medical things that came up during this time. Remember when I got that really bad UTI and into a kidney infection, and I had to be hospitalized?
Yep. First time I ever slept in a hospital. For
a couple of nights, and was out for a while. And that stressed me out because I felt like I was just getting behind.
Yeah.
And like they had me on this schedule of you're going to be in this rotation, and this rotation, this rotation. And so anytime I would be out, it would like delay everything. And I just remember being absolutely miserable and feeling like there's nothing, like I'm stuck in this, and thinking like, well, maybe eventually once I get through the orientation, it'll get easier, but it just never felt easy. Mm. It was awful. It was absolutely awful. And
was there any bright spot in the rotation of, this would work?
There was a couple of people that if I worked with them, I felt like, okay, they've got me, like they're going to help me. There was some people I worked with that were just totally mean. It's like they wanted to see you fail. And if I had a question, they would just be like, not helpful.
Was it jealousy, or their job was to make you try to quit?
I don't know. I think people just, because it's easy for them, because they've been doing it so many years, they don't understand what it's like coming in and not understand. Like,
They should. They at one time were that person.
I know, but a lot of people can't put themselves in that position. There was one girl in particular that if I was paired with her, I just knew it was going to be awful. And there was this one surgery where she was like, do you think you've got this? And I can like, because if they felt like, okay, you've watched a few surgeries now, I'm not going to scrub in, you're going to scrub in, and you're going to assist the doctor by yourself. And it was like it was a really like simple surgery. I think it was like a circumcision or something. And, but like the baby was older. It wasn't like one as a newborn, you know?
Right.
And so I was like, okay, like I'll try. And I had a question about the sutures. Cause like, again, like every doctor has different ones they like and all this stuff. And I went to ask her a question and she would just rolled her eyes at me and wouldn't help me.
You said you were ready. Yeah.
Well, like it wasn't that I said I was ready. It's just, she made me be like, she was like, you're ready. You know, I didn't feel comfortable.
Right. What was the end result of the surgery? How'd you do?
I did fine. And that particular doctor was pretty nice. And,
is it true the rumor that doctors have a God complex?
some of them. There was one plastic surgeon I worked for, and I guarantee you he was an awesome surgeon. Like if I had a kid, I probably would want him to have, but he was so incredibly rude and he did not care that I was new and he was so condescending.
Okay. Rude from the perspective of you're in my way, or rude from the perspective of arrogance of nobody else can do this but me. Why are you talking to me like this kind of thing?
Rude in terms of, he would just say to me, like, I don't want her. I want you that knows how to do this.
Okay.
Like to your face.
Okay.
And like, I'd only been there for, like, I didn't know anything. Like it wasn't that I was trying to learn as fast as I could. I'm a hard worker, but this was like being thrown into,
I guess they just don't want to waste time.
and I get it. Like this is why I don't think nurses, RNs should be a scrub, learn how to scrub in, because we aren't trained in that. And so you're trying to teach this stuff that is like completely foreign to us. And that's why most hospitals don't do that. But at this hospital, they wanted the nurses to be able to do both. I guess just so everybody knows how to do everything. But they didn't give us enough training. They wanted us to learn. They wanted us to learn in the moment, which sounds great. But then you have surgeons who don't understand that. And they're like, if you're here, you should know what to do.
Do you think they're testing pressure and not necessarily testing skill?
I don't know. I don't know what it was. And I would get there and like everybody would be setting up this room for surgery. Like there's all these things that have to be set up. And no one would come over to me and say like, do this, They would just wait for you to start doing something. Yeah, but I didn't know how to do anything.
Right.
I didn't know what they wanted me to do. And so I was shy. I didn't want to now I'd be like, okay, what can I do? But I would just stand there and like wait for someone to tell me what to do. And like, I didn't know what to do. And they would be like, stop standing there. And I'd be like, well, I don't know. It was just a very, really harsh environment where I just felt totally out of my league. Like there was basically nothing I did that I felt comfortable. I got fairly comfortable with the charting on the computer. And I got okay at like, you have to glove up the doctor. That is just like you see on TV. They have to stay, sterile. And so they put the, you have to help them into their gowns,
their big apron thing.
Because they can't touch the outside.
Right.
And then you have to help them into their gloves. Like I got okay at that. And so I did okay at some things, but the whole time it just felt like the day felt forever. I got there. I had to be there, I think by 7 or a little before 7. And I was there till 3, Monday through Friday. And I just remember the day felt so long. Which
was convenient because the time I was teaching, we had the same hours.
Yeah, but I left way earlier than you because it was in Birmingham.
Yeah, you had to leave like 6 a.m.
And then I would get home after you a lot of times because I was having to come home in rush hour and all that.
Well, depending on my day, I would get home about the same time you did.
And I just remember I was so stressed out that I would go to bed at like 7 o'clock. Like I hated it. Like I just was like, I was emotionally completely overwhelmed. I just was miserable. And I remember being like, how is this going to work out? Like, am I going to eventually just kind of get, better at this? And I kept like holding out hope because everybody told me like orientation's really hard.
Right.
And the, you have like a educator that's above you that's like supposed to help you train and stuff. And she was so nice, but we just didn't have that much time with her. It was mostly we just were thrown in rooms.
Right.
And it was intense. It was super intense.
Were there any surgeries you especially remember?
I always thought that like the surgery part would really get to me, but it is so interesting. Like you don't see much. Like they are so good.
Just the area they're working on.
They cover everything up, and they'll have the little space open where I got to see a lot of different surgeries, and it was very interesting. I really thought it would make me, because I don't know, like there was a few times in nursing school where I did feel like I was going to pass out. Mostly what got me was wound care, like pressure, like bed sores. Oh, the worst. I mean, I really thought I'd pass out, but surgery didn't bother me at all. I mean, I saw eye surgeries and tons of like, what's the word? Like general surgery, like abdominal stuff, brain stuff. Like I went around to a lot of tubes in the ears.
Did you ever get to like work a scope or a camera or anything like that?
No, nurses don't do that.
Okay.
Yeah. That we basically would hand them stuff. We would be in charge of
Did you do suction?
I don't know that we did.
Okay.
Maybe we might have held it there. I don't remember. Basically, we were there to like hand them stuff and make sure. And then like a lot of times, like you would be doing. So if I was not scrubbed in, I was more of like the nurse that was next to the patient. Say people are coming in for x-rays during the surgery. People are swatching in and out for lunch. So every time that would happen, you would have to re-gown, re-glove them. There was certain things, re-chart, who came in, who came out. It's just a lot of, it wasn't, even if you weren't scrubbed in, you weren't just sitting there watching a surgery.
Right. That makes sense.
And then like there was a lot of like safety things. So once, before the surgery started, we had what's called a timeout, and you had to make sure you did this, and everybody they stop what they're doing. They say what the patient's name is, what the surgery is. We all make sure that we're there for the same thing and, the right body part and all that, because accidents happen all the time.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of like legality stuff, and it was like a whole different world there. I had a beeper. I never got to the point where I had to take call. I never made it that far. After orientation, you would have to take call. So if there was an emergency in the middle of the night, you would have to go in, so.
In terms of the reflection process on all of that, like leading up to your back injury, what were the areas that were especially physically the most demanding?
It was a very physical job because when you think kids, you think, well, they're not very big, but we had all the way up to age 18.
Right.
And there was some big kids, and, you have to, they get on most of the time they kind of help getting onto the bed, the operating room table. But then once they're asleep,
you got to move them.
You've got to move them back into the recovery.
And they're dead weight.
And we would have like a lot of us to do it. So it wasn't like it was just you doing it.
Right.
But it's a lot of stress on your back. It really is. And
had you already had a back injury before this?
I don't think so. And I don't remember the exact moment I had a back injury this time. It's just, I think little by little, the way you have to stand there, the bending over, all of that, my back started really bothering me. And I had just been picked. It was actually the most toxic group of all, was the plastics team. That's where that mean doctor was that just hated my guts. I loved the team.
Give me his name and number. I'll find him.
Not going to do it. I liked the team leader. So all the different groups had like a team leader that managed them. They don't necessarily weren't in there for the surgeries a lot, but I really liked her, and she liked me, and she wanted me on her team. And so I was like, okay, but that group was so hard to work with. They were so hard to work with. And they do some like simple surgeries, like they would do eye stuff and like little, but then they did like, big things too, like craniotomies and stuff they would help with. And so, it was just a high pressure situation. But my back injury, I don't honestly know how it happened, but I remember it just getting worse and worse. And
do you remember the day it finally shut down though? And
I don't really remember. Like I remember like it clenched up several different times, and I would have to like not go to work or like come home early or something. And honestly, we just thought, and everybody we talked to said like, oh, it's probably just a pulled muscle. Like, you're young. And I remember they finally sent me in to a MRI to get like, well, let's just make sure that it's nothing major. And everybody was telling me like, it's nothing. Like it's nothing. Like it's probably just a little strained.
But the MRI said.
But I remember exactly, I was in bed and I got a call and they said, you have a herniated disc. That's what the pain is. And it's on L5S1, so it's your lower back. And they got me in for...
Which is right above right above your
it's like very low back.
Like right above your above your pelvic hip. Yeah.
Yeah. And
because every time Jessica has a back injury, that's where my hand goes to immediately, or not injury, but just sore back.
It was so painful. And at this time, like we had already found out that you were not going to be able to stay at the Christian schools because they were getting rid of your major.
Yeah.
So this was, it's like towards the end of the year.
Yeah, like April or May.
Yeah. So I had been there first few months, but again, it was tumultuous. And this back injury happened and I couldn't work. And they got me in to get the epidural placed, like a pain, whatever block. That helped a little bit, but not a whole lot. And I remember just talking to that manager I had and being like, and I had to sign this thing. You were looking for a job, like, you put your name out there for ministry. We thought we could be moving. We had that interview in Louisiana during this time. And I had to sign this thing when I became a nurse that I would stay there for like 2 years and not leave because they had problems with people coming in and training and then they would leave to go to a better job that, and they wouldn't stay there. And they put all this work into you being trained and then you would leave. And so I had to sign this thing that if I left, I was going to have to pay all of this money back.
Right.
And so I remember us being so stressed out because I was like, I don't want to stay. And that was a big reason why I didn't just quit. I don't want to stay, but what are we going to do? Like if you get a job.
I remember this being the one of the sore things. We actually prayed into this a lot. We were like, God, if you want us to move and take a ministry job, then she's going to have to get fired, which is terrible to pray for. But if you quit, then you owe all this back pay for everything.
I remember us talking to the pastor. We were interviewing about it and he was like, look, if God wants you to move, he's going to work all this out.
Right.
And I just remember being so stressed out.
Never thought I'd ever pray that. Lord, pray that my wife gets fired so we can move.
But my back pain was getting worse and worse. And I remember I had used like all of my time, like paid time off, all my medical stuff. Like they were really great and they gave me as much as I could. And then I remember talking to my manager and her being like, well, do you think you can come back? And I'm like, I can't right now. And
so she just released you.
And I was like, what do I do from here? And she's like, normally during this kind of stuff, we just let you go. And I was like, that's fine. I was like, that's fine. I understand. I actually was so relieved. I was so relieved. I didn't cry one tear when she said that. And she's just like, normally in this kind of situation, we would just let you go. And I probably could have said, no, I don't want to, like, I'll do, and fought it. But I was just like, okay, that's fine. And so we didn't have to pay the money back and I had to turn in all my stuff. I do remember feeling like, I still look back on that time and I feel a little bit like I failed, like.
You didn't fail.
But like, I know that some people go through that and they're able to do it, and I wish in some ways that I was able to myself prove that I could do that. I don't know why I'm crying right now.
Is it like an unfinished chapter of your life?
It kind of is. And I did work as a nurse, giving flu shots once we moved to Texas. Actually, before we moved too, I did it in Alabama, right after all that went down. Actually, no. Before I got the nursing job at Children's, I gave flu shots.
Yes, you did.
That's what it was, like before we got married and everything, or that around that time. And then started the hospital job in January. And then once I left that, we moved. We ended up getting a job in Texas.
Right.
And I gave flu shots there, the same company. Yep. And I loved that. Like that was really easy. I would sit in Walmart. We would do paperwork and give people flu shots. That was actually, I loved that job. But then it went to
remember the once or twice I came to this Walmart you were at and you gave me a flu shot.
I made you come and give. So I'm like, you were getting a flu shot.
I just want to see you and give you a shot.
Yeah, I got to give you a shot, your flu shots. But then they transitioned from nurses doing that to they have the pharmacists do it now. So It wasn't like a long lived thing. But I look back on that, like that's my whole nursing career. Those two things. And I look back and I'm like, I put so much hard work into becoming a nurse, and I feel a little bad that it was such a, like, it went up in flames basically. And I have people ask me all the time, like, would you ever go back? But at this point, we're kind of past that. I would have to.
We had a comment recently said, it's good you could fall back on that. And I'm like, actually, she really can't.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't have to start all the way over to nursing school. But in terms of like, I haven't kept my nursing license up. Oh, why haven't you? Well, it's because I did get it in Texas. But every state, you've got to reapply. And then every year, you have to do these classes to keep you current.
Right.
And so obviously, like, I haven't kept that up. Like, that's been, I haven't had my nursing title next to my name in
over a decade.
Yeah. So, and I wouldn't feel safe going back. Like, I would have to take more classes. I would have to do, like, I don't even know what I'd all have to do.
Get recertified,
everything. And to do that, to do a job that honestly, I just don't like. And so when people are like, well, you could always fall back, it's almost like insulting to me because it's like,
stop. So disclaimer, don't type that. Don't put it in the comments. Don't say it.
Well, it's just like a thing. People are like, well, and again, I get it. Like, they're not trying to be rude. Like, nursing is a job that's always going to be needed.
Absolutely.
But
not for you.
I hated it. I absolutely hated it. And part of me wishes that it went down differently than it did. Like, if I had gotten another job besides that operating room, would my nursing career, my life look totally different? Would I have loved it?
Right.
Because like what I was doing on the pediatric floor in Mobile, I loved that. Like, now I'm not saying I loved it in terms of, yay, I'm going to work, but it wasn't bad. Like, I didn't cry about it. I didn't hate it.
You didn't feel about any of it at any point the way I feel about what I do.
No. Again, like, I go back to me being in the middle of nursing school being like, I have made a giant mistake. I don't like this. It's not like my passion. I would have people next to me who wanted to be nurses from the time they were little girls. And I'm like, I don't feel that same way, but I was too far in it to quit. Like, I would have had to start all the way back over in terms of college. And so that's why I stuck it through. So I feel bad that, like, my parents paid all this money to put me through school and to do all that. And I feel like I haven't done much with it, but I don't know. I just don't know what it could have. I don't know.
Have you talked to God about it?
I don't know. I mean, yes, but I don't know.
I think you should.
I mean, I have, in terms of like,
because he works all things together for good. So what was the purpose of it?
I do think that whole time I went from all the health problems that I had that was such an emotionally hard time. Mm-hmm. And I did feel very empowered to be able to complete nursing school.
Absolutely.
And to have my education. And I do think I grew as a person. I do think that, perseverance, adversity, all of the things, I do think that there was a reason I went through all of that.
Yeah.
And I'm very thankful for the medical knowledge I do have. I mean, I'm not like an expert or anything, but when my kids get sick, I'm able to, kind of assess them. And, I feel like God works all things together for good. And I don't know why it didn't work out, but I do know that we met because I was in nursing school. And, I would have had no way of knowing that I would have had a special needs child. Mm-hmm. I would not want to feel like, here's my career that I love, but I'm a mom and I have to step away from it.
Yeah.
And I never had to have that. Like, I'm home with our kids. That's truly where I want to be. And I don't feel torn at all.
Yeah. It reminds me of a story that I heard when I was in Rangers. I was about 14. That's how much, the fact that I can quote this story to the degree I can is how much this story impacted me. There was this preacher that was using this as a metaphor for his altar time. And he said there was a man who lived by himself on a farm. And in the middle of his farmland, there was this huge boulder. I mean, several thousand pounds just sitting in the middle of his field. And it was always an eyesore to him. And he just one day the Lord spoke to him and said, go move it. He's like, how? The Lord said, go up to it, push it, move it. He's like, God, it weighs. He's like, do what I told you to do. Go up to it, push it, move it. And day after day after day, in all of his free time, when he wasn't plowing the field, when he wasn't feeding the animals, when he wasn't, doing his and whatever else, he would go up to that rock and just push on it and push on it. And of course, it never moved. After, I forgot how many weeks, months of this, just frustrated. He took out his tape measure and he's like, God, it's not moved an inch. It's not moving. He said, no, it hasn't, but you've moved. He's like, what do you mean? He said, go look at the mirror. He went in the bathroom and looked in the mirror. His body was toned. His muscles were stronger. His endurance was stronger. He's like, have you noticed you're less winded when you plow the field? Have you noticed that you have more energy at the end of the day? Have you noticed you're getting things done faster than you used to get things done? So by obeying me and doing something that in your mind is impossible or in your mind is meaningless or in your mind is worthless, you're able to do everything else in your life easier because you've obeyed me. He said, the rock is for me to move. What you are supposed to do is obey me and reap the benefits of it. So as you were just talking about all of this, I just see you as nursing school was a rock and you were supposed to push on it. And okay, it didn't, I feel like a failure. It didn't move. Yeah, but everything else in your life that's been touched, it's better because you went through it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but your mom, this always encouraged me. Your mom majored in special education.
Yes, she did. And never got to do it.
She never did it, but
she has a special needs son and grandson.
Every single day of her life. And only God could do something like that.
Absolutely.
You know? And we don't know why.
God never works in direct lines. He always works in abstracts because if he worked the way we thought he would work, then he wouldn't need to be God.
In my perfect mind, I thought, well, this is great. I want to be a mom. Logically, I went to nursing. I could do that on the side of being a mom, and I had it all figured out.
That's logic. That's not God.
But it didn't turn out that way.
Yeah, God rarely works within our logic.
And I'm thinking like, well, I'll have all this money, well, we have been okay.
Yeah,
God has blessed us, and too, I think all the times we've had to move and all this stuff, it would have been very hard for me to have this career and constantly have to leave it and move and start over and all that. And God knew that. And, I do have regrets about some things. I was so young when I started. Like, how would I have been different if I had gone into it now?
Right.
When I had more experience and I was more life experience. I was 22 when all this happened. I'm almost twice that age now.
Yeah.
But God works everything for good.
Same.
No, I don't know about that.
Still look as pretty as you've ever looked.
The worst part of it was we had to wear our hair up in those bonnet things, and I had to wear a mask. And y'all, we were wearing masks before everybody in COVID was. I hate it. I felt like I was suffocating.
Yep.
And then they had the little cautery thing, which is basically you're burning flesh. That's what it is. And the smell, I will never forget it. And you're standing there if you're scrubbed in, you're standing there smelling it.
Watching and smelling it.
With this thing over your face. And I just remember feeling like so claustrophobic all the time. That was my least favorite. That and then some people just being really rude. But what was crazy is Nate had surgery twice at that same hospital.
He did.
And I got to experience it on the other side of it.
Yeah.
And everybody was so wonderful to us. And, I'm grateful for the people that were nice to me.
I just think hearing you talk about it, and just all the trials you went through and all the things, even going through the injury of it, the lasting impacts it's had for good and for bad. I think it's made you strong. I think it's made you resilient. I definitely think that you have been able to handle a lot more stress and anxiety and things in this life. Now, of course, there's times I need to talk you off a ledge every now and then, but for the most part, it's been very much a lot of times you look at the things that stress me out, you kind of look at them and go, been through worse than this, or been through harder than this, or dealt with worse people than this. And then there's times when we'll go through something and it'll affect you differently. And I'm the one that rises up and says, we can deal with this. Yeah. And so it's amazing how God almost let us go through different areas of stress and different areas of pressure so we can help each other when we go through them together. Yeah, I think so too. I mean, it was a really hard time, and to start our marriage off like that, the stress of it and all that. But it did, I mean, we did. You were always so supportive. And I remember when we realized that my paycheck was going to be going away, and I remember I'm sure we were scared, but I don't remember us being, worried. Too bad. I mean, from day one, we said, we're not going to quit tithing. We're not going to quit giving in the offering because God's going to take care of us. Vividly during this time. This is when I realized our paycheck was going to be gone and everything, we had so much money in the bank, and I tried to make a budget and do the responsible thing. And I listed all of our expenses and I listed our income.
And y'all, it was not even close.
No.
It was so bad that I crumpled up the paper.
And we weren't living in like excess either.
No.
We were very minimalistic in what we had.
I literally was like, I crumpled the paper. I was like, there's no point. And I threw it away. But we have never been late on our rent payment.
Never.
On our utilities. We've
Never.
always had food. And I don't know
We
how
have
that.
zero debt to our name.
And I have no idea how we made it through that.
I do.
I mean, it was nothing short of a miracle.
Yes, it was all God.
Because
God honors his word.
You know,
Always.
and he just blessed us. And I don't, financially, it doesn't make sense. But that's kind of how he's always taken care of us.
Yeah.
You know, we've never made the most money ever. And my plan was I want to be a nurse, so I will have that money to fall back on. But with God, like he's so faithful and he doesn't just like the manna, you know, they get it enough for one day. I tend to want the pile.
Yeah.
I feel the security of having the bank account full of money.
Yeah, you're 6.
I'm a 6. Yeah, I thought you said something else.
Said you're 6. So all about security. And I had that conversation with God yesterday because I was praying about, you know, there's some things we've talked about in terms of like starting to save for retirement and starting to save for kids' college and things like that. And everybody's like, your kids are 13 and 11. Aren't you already doing it? It's not always easy to have a nest egg and saving that stuff up. And I just remember praying and being like, God, there's got to be a way to do something here to start putting a little bit aside for that. And the Lord spoke to me and said, who's your source?
Yeah.
Do you trust me or do you not trust me? And, you know, even when you start thinking, well, I need to start doing this extra stuff so I can be like, do you trust me or do you not trust me?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying sit back in your chair, watch TV and eat bonbons or eat popcorn or whatever. Be like, God's going to take care of me. No, that's not what I'm talking about. You work hard. You do your best.
And saving isn't bad.
And saving you absolutely is, but you don't let money run your life. You don't look at it as, well, I don't trust God's timing and I don't trust God's favor on my life. I trust the numbers in my bank account, so I have to make those numbers go up. If you do that, then money's your idol. And the Bible says you can't serve both. And I'm thankful that at the earliest of times in our marriage, God said, I'm going to take this away so it's not even ever going to be an idol for you. You're going to have to learn to depend on me from day one. And we always have.
We always have had to.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's been times we have more money in the bank than others, but we've never gone without.
Yeah.
And, you know, we have 3 beautiful children.
Yes, we do.
And they're always well cared for and taken care of. And I'm just so grateful.
And their closets have more than enough.
Well, they have, and I was going to say, we don't just have needs, we have wants.
We do have wants.
We've been able to take vacations and we've been able, you know, we have above and beyond, and that's just the faithfulness of God.
And can we always do more and steward better? Yeah. And we probably could do that as well. But when the time comes for these things to take place, I know God's going to be there and I know he's going to take care of all of it. And I'm thankful for the woman that you are. And I know nursing was a predominant reason that you are the way you are. You are so strong and you are so resilient and you are able to look at difficult, hurtful people and be like, I don't care.
The hardest part for me was realizing that they were in the church too.
Oh, yeah.
Like for the longest, I thought, well, I can see why the surgeon over there is mean. He's not a Christian. And then you get in the church and you're like, oh, there's mean people here too.
Yeah, there's mean people everywhere. Human nature is everywhere.
I know. And we all can be that way to
Absolutely.
other people. So
yeah. And if we're not careful, we can be that way.
That's what I just said.
Yeah. You didn't say that I was mean
to
you.
And I said we can be like that too.
I thought you meant we as in the church. We as in the general church. But yeah, no, everybody can be that way. We're all still wrestling with our flesh every single day. That's why Paul said, I die daily. I got to put that evil person to death every day.
I think the biggest thing is being able to feel empathy for someone else. Because looking at that surgeon's perspective, he didn't put himself in my place. He didn't know what it was like for me coming into that.
No.
So can I be like that to other people? Can I give them grace?
And you definitely are that. You are the first lady and mother of our campus. And you always look at every person that comes in as, what would I want this person to be like for me?
I try to.
What would I want them to feel comfortable in? How would I want them? You know what? It'd be great if they walked in and smelled breakfast. It'd be great if they walked in and there was coffee waiting for them. It'd be great if they walked in and the music was like this and the graphics looked like this and the atmosphere was like this and the kids program. You always put yourself in everybody else's shoes because that's the kind of church you want. And I appreciate you for that because I need that in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So absolutely. I'll say that to you all the time. And I'm proud of you. And I'm proud of you for everything you've been through. I'm proud of you.
I feel like the hardest part is people look I feel like this, and maybe they don't, but I feel like people look at me and when they hear this story, do they think that I failed?
No.
I don't know. I think some people do.
And if they do, that's their problem, and God will deal with them for that.
Yeah.
No, you are not a failure. You went through a season of your life that prepared you for the season you're in now.
Yeah.
That's exactly what this is. I mean, if Joseph had not gone through the pit and Potiphar's house and the prison, he couldn't have handled the palace. That's the whole art of everything. If Jesus was a carpenter for 20 plus years before he was a rabbi, you don't just, and that's the Son of God. That's the perfect man. But even he had to learn. The Bible says he learned obedience through the things he suffered.
Yeah.
And that's not just the cross. That's everything that led up to that. Every man and woman in the Bible, where they ended up and what they're probably most remembered for is not the whole life they had. They had to go through several areas of their life before they got to the place where God finally was like, this is what you're going to be remembered for. And so, no, I 100% think that, the tools and the character traits that God developed in you through the nursing school and then the nursing process, you use them every single day, just not the way you thought you would.
Yeah.
And I'm very thankful for you.
Thanks.
You're welcome. I love you.
You've been with me through all of it.
And I'll always be through all of it and everything else.
Yeah.
I love you so much,
I love
honey.
you, baby.
You're my girl. You're my nurse. Every time I'm sick. And we almost forgot to mention one of the best things that came out of the ending of your nursing career is we got Layla.
Yeah.
Right at the end of it.
Right at the end of it. I needed her. I was so down.
Mm-hmm.
I was so down. And she's always been my little buddy.
Yep.
A little bestie.
Yep. Yeah, we got her literally like almost to the day. Like within that weekend or a week of or a week after. When
it was right around that time.
Right around that time
June.
when it was done. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Right before we moved to Texas.
Yeah. She's been with us. She's about to turn 15 years old.
I know.
Unbelievable.
That's crazy how old she is.
Married 15 to life.
With Layla.
With Layla. That's a whole different
mascot.
podcast. She's the mascot of our family. 100%.
She is.
I appreciate you being vulnerable today and telling your story, honey.
I appreciate you listening to it.
Of course. Of course. I've heard it a couple of times.
It's not too, I feel like it's kind of sad.
But the details of it are great. But again, I hope people can listen to this and be like, well, what if I'm in a dead end job? Or what if I'm in something that maybe I didn't think it was going to be like I was? Then take every moment of it and say, God, what do you want me to learn from this?
I think there's no shame in going,
No.
You know what? This isn't what I want to do. And even though I've done it for this long, I'm going to go back to school and do something else. Or I'm going to try this new
Absolutely.
thing. Like, life is too short to cry every single day on your way to
Absolutely.
work. Like, you
Absolutely.
shouldn't do that.
No. But yeah, and if there is a season of your life where you look back and like, well, I left it unfinished or whatever, maybe you didn't. Maybe it was just a chapter that needed to happen so you could be prepared for what you're doing now.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's a season of your life where God was trying to teach you. And sometimes in life, here's the thing. A lot of times you don't know what you need to do until sometimes you learn what you don't need to do.
I mean, I know of people who went into teaching and taught for a few years and they decided it wasn't for them and they went back to school and they became something else.
I have a cousin that went to 4 years of Bible college to be a youth pastor. Within 1 year of youth ministry, he realized he hates kids.
I don't know if he hates kids.
He hated
that.
He hated the job because he all of a sudden realized, hey, it's not just stepping on a platform once a week and preaching a message. There's parents
That's
and
the
there's
thing, like,
youth camps and traveling and lock-ins and all the other stuff.
When you go into a college or a profession, you don't know what all it entails. There's no way to.
No, and thankfully, a lot of careers and majors give you more on-site training than they used to because they want people to be aware of it. But a lot of times they don't.
And a lot of times there's classes you have to take before you even get into that.
Absolutely.
You know? So, yeah, I think it's more common than we talk about.
Yeah.
You know.
That's why, we've stressed forever, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and he'll add all these things to you. And if you have a question, maybe you're listening to this right now and you're a teenager or a young adult and you're like, I still don't even know what God wants me to do with my life. Fall in love with him. He'll lead you. The Bible says he'll lead you. He'll order your steps and guide you on the path. The Bible says the Holy Spirit leads and guides us in the way of all truth. And so if we lean on him and let him be our guide and his word, our lamp to our feet and a light to our path, he'll never steer you wrong. And so even though, you may look back and be like, well, God, that was a weird detour. He's like, yeah, but you needed to take it. You needed to take it. You needed to drive that pathway and learn what you need to learn along that year or year and a half of your life so that you could be ready for everything you're doing today.
Yeah.
So, love you.
I love you too.
Thank you all for listening to this right now. I pray that if you did listen to this and you were encouraged and inspired to have God do whatever in your life he wants to do in your life, then please leave us a 5-star rating. Leave us your comments, any questions you may have. I'm sure maybe in the future this may spawn some questions for you about Jessica's nursing time. And next time we do a Q&A, we will answer them if you'll put them in the comments. If you have a lengthy question or a comment and you want to do it video or audio or anything like that, you can mail it or email it at married15tolife@mail.com. married15tolife@mail.com. Jess?
If you're watching on YouTube, definitely give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and definitely share this video with a friend.
I appreciate it, y'all. Thank y'all so much. Help us get to 1,000 subscribers. We are inching our way up, adding a couple
Look
each
right
week.
now, see if you're subscribed.
Absolutely.
If you're not, hit it.
Hit that subscribe button. If you
Doesn't
know
cost you anything.
If you know someone who's a nurse and needs to hear this, I'm just kidding.
Don't.
Or if I'm just saying, if you know that doctor that was so rude to her,
I still remember his name, but I'm not
we're
saying
not
it.
saying it. But seriously, y'all, help us get to 1,000 subscribers. Share this with somebody that you think, man, I think my friend or my family member would love to listen to this podcast. Send it over to them and tell them, hey, by the way, subscribe to this. You'll like it. But I appreciate it, and we appreciate all of you for listening, liking, commenting, subscribing. Until the next episode, I'm David.
I'm Jess.
I'm the husband.
I'm the wife.
And
You should leave that in.
And we are married.
15 to life.
I love this nurse.
Oh, I'm not a nurse anymore.
You are my nurse.
Oh, I love you too.
All right. Have a good time, everybody. We'll see y'all next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
You